Okay, well, we're going to get started. For those watching at home, you're not seeing anything because the live stream isn't working. We'll see this later. So if you guys get any texts, why can't I see your pretty faces on YouTube? That's just because we're having some technical issues, or YouTube is. But in any case, we're going to get started. It's 10:50 a.m. on April 26, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order of Kane County's American Rescue Plan Committee. Clerk, please call the roll.
Kenyon,
Yes, here.
Bates, Gums,
Gums, here.
Leonard,
Leonard here.
Molina,
Molina present.
Strothman,
Strathman, here.
Surges,
Present.
Tepe,
Tempe here.
and Sanchez.
Sanchez present. Okay, if someone could please ask for unanimous consent to approve the minutes of March 29th, 2023.
Get a unanimous.
Mr.
consent.
Kenyon so asks. Any objection? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Public comment. Is anyone here in person or online who wishes to deliver a public comment at this time? If so, please speak up. Hearing and seeing none, we will go on to our discussion items. First up, Program Manager Update, Mr. Phillips.
Morning. I am Peter Phillips, the Kane County American Rescue Plan Program Manager. And for this month, I am reporting, do we have the slide deck? There we go, thanks. Always takes a moment. Sorry. If we go to the next slide to give you an update on the community support grant, we presently have 20 of the grants that are fully dispersed, 10 partially, and we have 2 pending disbursement now that are in the flow for checks being cut, and then we have 2 additional that we have in the system that we require new information on. And then actually there are 2 other that new submission requests that came in last night that did not make this slide. That's where we are on the community support grant. Next slide, please. So in progress, we are still examining the CAC funding project for department projects, increased demand for counseling needs, and these are being worked on by the project owner and state's attorney assessing these, and that includes eviction clerk for juvenile abuse cases as well. And then 2, we have received new information from OEM for a quote for the mobile command post. We are examining that, as well as what would be designed as the program for that expenditure if it were approved. Next slide, please. And I have 2 slides, actually. Planning for Maine going forward, the next 2 slides are probably interchangeable, could be one. So planning for Maine, we are actually at the point where we're going to demonstrate, hold a demo call with Chairman Sanchez and board member Roth, as well as state's attorney's office, for the enhancements we've made to the grant portal. And those enhancements have been made so that that portal will support the department grants and all the compliance documents that the department and office heads would be working on. We just received the reconciliation last night from Ernst & Young for the quarterly reporting. I will be reviewing that today and forwarding it to Finance for their review as well. So we are on course for submitting. Actually, there's a mention on the next slide. I will refrain from that. But we plan on continuing the review of the community support grant and disbursements, completion of the initial review of all county project risk assessments. That is because there are multiple stage assessments. Initially, we will inquire and request further information from the project owners, and then based on their answers, we have probably a succession of questions. That's why that has an extended process. Then resolution writing and assessing the capital project expenditures. Next slide, please. And last, again, so we are on course, and we will be meeting our deadline for reporting to U.S. Treasury by the 30th. We will probably do that a couple of days in advance of that. And then if more RFIs are submitted by FEMA for our reimbursement request for Max SPAC site, we'll be responding to that. And then the last goes right back to the portal. The demo call we're going to be trying to schedule for this coming Monday, and that would put that portal completely online. And that is the extent of my update. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Phillips? Okay, thank you, Mr. Phillips. As board members are aware, I just wanted to say in open session for those who are monitoring the work of this committee, Mr. Phillips has had some change in circumstances in his personal life and is resigning from his position and will be with us until the end of May. And I just wanted to thank Mr. Phillips for all the work he's done helping us put this program together, a train that was moving before it was finished being built. And we've gotten so much good work done, and we're right at the precipice of the next real big phase of our work. And I just, again, can't thank you enough for helping us get to this point. I know you're with us for a little over a month still, but I just wanted to thank you and let everyone know that we are looking for a replacement. So a job description hopefully will be posted today, and we'll be conducting interviews in coordination with Mr. Phillips and bringing a new person on next month, ideally, onboarding them and going from there. So again, thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Other committee matters, I'm not aware of any that need to be discussed at this time. With your indulgence, I would like to.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
I have
Tempe, go
I have a
ahead.
question.
Yes.
I'd like to understand the process that it takes for deciding whether or not a resolution is on our agenda. Okay? For example, I worked with the water department, and there were resolutions that had essentially, to my understanding, completed the review process in December. Some of them are time-sensitive in relationship to getting them started. And I know that they were submitted to be on this particular agenda for today's consideration, but they're not here. And I'd like to understand why and the detailed aspects of that decision process.
My understanding is that they weren't ready for resolution months ago. We have a very thorough process that's established now, going from the risk assessment to a resolution into this board. And in order to get on the agenda, that entire process has to be completed by, Wednesday of last week, so at least a week ahead of time. And that also means other agents in the county have to have given input, such as finance, state's attorney, things like that. So if a resolution is not ready by that cutoff point, it just doesn't make it onto the agenda. So specifically with some of the water resource ones, that was the case to my understanding, and Mr. Phillips can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Also, some projects after this thorough vetting with our consultant in the state's attorney's office, they're flagged for revenue recoupment expenditure only. And if you recall, with our spending plan, we have essentially said as a board, we would like to use all that revenue recoupment money for budgetary purposes, closing our budget gap. And if we have county projects that can only be funded through revenue recoupment, that's a conversation that we have to have, and that we will be having next month, because it's not just some of the water resource projects that fall under that category, there are other department requests that fall under that category as well. So we have to decide first as a committee, recommendation body, and as a county board, do we want to take some of that revenue recoupment money for department projects or not? So that's, we'll be giving you some good information on all of that well in advance of our next meeting, so that we're all very well prepared to have that conversation. And I think it's something that the entire board is going to want to be interested to be a part of.
So who's on this committee or group that decides whether or not it's there?
Whether or not what is there.
Well, you're saying that certain things aren't there. Who makes that determination?
Certain things aren't there as far as bringing something to a resolution to this committee. Well, we have a whole process that's mapped out. I know we've handed out before, and we can do that again. We have a whole flow chart of the process, the risk assessment to resolution process. So if you'd like, we can send that out again. Mr. Phillips, do you have any other detail you'd like to add?
This
Sure.
that microphone's not on. Yeah, so the position description for the program manager position does stipulate that I will coordinate, or my position will coordinate and make these assessments and advise. Now, I cannot advise on anything that is not before me. We have a process that these resolutions run through the program manager, and if they are going through other channels and coordinating through other offices, and then coming to the project manager, then, and he's not, or program manager, and he's not involved and aware, then he can't react. So the answer, short answer is, we did not have these resolutions. All the resolutions that we had, that we initiated, that we were involved in, were approved, or not approved, but were written and presented in this agenda. So I would suggest that that person contact the program manager and coordinate all their activities with all documents, risk assessments, resolutions, all compliance-related matter, so that the resolutions will flow through as they're ready. So
I'm only using those as an example, okay? I'm not just
those are the
picking on those.
specific ones that I know of, that somebody wanted on the agenda and asked the day after the agenda was posted why they weren't there. We did not have them. So that is the answer.
Thank you.
And again, Mr. Tepe, if you'd like me to resend out the flow, the workflow of going from the risk assessment to resolution, I'd be happy to have that sent out to everyone again.
The entire decision process is somewhat of a maze, you know. Did the state's attorney's office sign off on them? Do they have a process to do that?
Yeah.
Go, then it's done.
Yes, they're a part of that.
Right.
They're a step in the process, I believe 2 steps in the process. So I can send that out again. It is complex, it's a big program. We have to be very sure in our compliance measures and due diligence. So that is why it is a bit complex, but I guarantee the more you stare at these documents and these things, the more you start to understand them. So any other questions or comments at this point? Okay, I would, with your indulgence, like to move the agenda just slightly so that we can go into executive session before we attend to any new business. So I'd entertain a motion in a second to go into closed session to discuss personnel, performance review.
Kenyon would move.
Mr. Kenyon moves.
Leonard Suck.
Leonard seconds. Clerk, please call the roll.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Bates, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strothman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Tuppy,
Tepe, yes.
and Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes.
Okay, I will go ahead and open the closed session room. We are not live streaming at this point, but I will let you know once everybody is in the room together. So just be patient and accept those invites, please.
It shouldn't take long.
All right, you're in open session.
Okay. Let everybody pile in here. Clerk, please call roll for attendance in open session.
Kenyon,
Here.
Bates, Gums,
Gums here.
Leonard,
Leonard here.
Molina,
Molina present.
Strathman,
Strathman here.
Burgess,
Burgess here.
Tepe,
Steppy here.
and Sanchez.
Sanchez present. Okay, thank you for that little jaunt in our agenda. Let us now go to new business. We have a few resolutions to get through before we all break for lunch. I apologize, I did not have catering come in this time, but maybe next
Not
time.
acceptable.
last time
Not
we'll-
acceptable. I
Last time
concur
we'll-
with Mr.
No more
Kenyon.
next
All right.
time.
All right, next time. You guys get to fight over Jimmy John's or Jersey Mike's though, okay? All right, I need a motion in a second for the resolution authorizing the use of state and local fiscal recovery funds for Kane County ARP program administrative expenses for FY 22 audit services provided by Baker Tilly.
Leonard
Gums
moves.
Leonard
Gums will
moves.
second.
Gums seconds. Any questions on this? I can just tell you briefly, the county has an audit performed every year, which they are, I believe, about to complete. And American Rescue Plan is part of that. And that is an eligible expense for the work that they did in auditing our program. Any questions? Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think it's important too that people realize that this is a $2,860 expense, so not a major expense to the ARP committee.
Any other questions or comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Bates, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Burgess, Tepe,
Steppy, yes.
and Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes. Okay, I need a motion and a second for approving a resolution approving invoices from Ernst & Young LLP for professional services rendered in relation to the Federal Emergency Management Agency Public Assistance Program.
Kenyon would move it.
Kenyon moves,
Gums will second.
Gums will second. Again, we tasked our program manager and consultant firm with going after FEMA money to try and reduce our expenditures on ARPA. And this is, well, now we're starting to see the invoices from that. Any questions on this? Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Bates, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Burgess,
Burgess, yes.
Tepe,
Steppy present.
and Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes. Okay, the next two are dealing with department projects coming from the clerk's office, so office projects. I need a motion and a second for authorizing the use of state and local fiscal recovery funds to fund microfilm archiving for the Kane County Circuit Clerk's Office.
Gums moves.
Gums
Molina
moves.
seconds.
Molina seconds. And we do have Circuit Clerk Barrero here today with staff. If anyone has any questions on this resolution, Mr. Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'd just like to find out the microfilm archiving by the Kane County Circuit Clerk's Office. We have an allocation of $744,000. I was wondering if Ms. Barrero could explain to us what that encompasses, because I didn't totally understand it.
Sure, it's a big project and it takes a few years. Yeah, it was. So Lori is my, this is Lori Johnson. She is my finance officer and chief of finance in our office, and she has all the documents broken down by year. What they're going to do is take the records that can be microfilmed and put on digital, and a company comes in, we box it all up, they put it all on digital, and then we have to re-put it back into the case management system. So that's what it's about. It's about getting all the records put on digital, which is the best way to store records for the future. Eliminates all the papers that we still have. Of course, there are some things that we cannot move to digital, but 3/4 we can, and it also frees up space in our office.
Thank you.
If you want to break down, I got all the paperwork here.
No, thank you very much.
Mr. Surges.
Teresa, my question is this under the auspice of wants or needs? is this something that we are obligated to do, or is this something on a wish list and we just have the extra money, so we're wanting to do that?
It's a need because in order to store records so that we keep them for eternity, it's a need. If they're on digital, it saves from being, if there's a fire or anything like that and records would be destroyed. It is a need. It is something that they started a few years ago and they only got a little portion of it because it's very costly.
So is this a one and done, meaning we're catching up from everything in the past, and from this point forward, it would all be digital and we'd never have to replicate this again?
No, there are some cases that are, or some, I should say, codes, like we have, divorce and civil and, we have codes. There are some that aren't even included in this yet. So it's a massive undertaking.
Maybe I didn't ask that correctly. From this point, from today going forward, it's all digital.
Right.
This is just stuff that's.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct. We scan everything coming through now to try and keep as least paper coming through as.
Okay, I'm in favor.
Any other questions or Mr. Kenyon?
Was this stored off-site, the digital too,
Well, it's with IT.
in a cloud?
Yes, it's with IT. So yes. Some is on microfilm, and that's another project that Mr. Roth and I had discussed before. But we're trying to get everything into the case management system.
You know what a cloud is?
Yeah,
Okay.
cloudy day, yeah.
I would love to have the cloud, but that's another with our Tyler. But that's another,
That's your imagination.
I don't think you want to give me that cost.
Any other questions or comments for the circuit clerk? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Bates, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strothman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Yes.
Pepe,
That'd be yes.
and Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes. Okay, and keep in mind, these are, we call them department projects. You can just think of them really as Kane County projects because we have offices and departments, but we're all lumping them into one. And these were all part of that approval process that we went through last year. I think it was last year. And, where everybody broke off into teams. So we're getting to those. And that's, again, what you're seeing here with these. So I will ask for a motion and a second for the resolution authorizing the use of state and local fiscal recovery funds to fund the expungement clerk position for the Kane County Circuit Clerk's office.
Gums will move.
Gums,
Kenyon will second.
any seconds? Any question, Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hate to sound so poorly informed today, but I really don't understand what an expungement clerk will do. And, the cost is $265,000. So if I could, I'd like an explanation from someone.
Ms. Barrero is still at the microphone.
Yeah, I figured I shouldn't sit down. It is a clerk, just like our deputy clerks, that takes care of all the paperwork and enters the information into the case management system. It's another huge undertaking. There's a lot of entities that need to be informed when someone applies for expungement. With COVID, a lot of people are trying to reinvent themselves, get different positions and jobs and seek other opportunities. And we've seen an increase in these. We always hold expungement clinics, and it's just like getting massive as, ever since COVID. So it's obvious that this is an issue that has been more brought to the surface. That there are cases that can be expunged or sealed for people to get employment, like a nurse or even a teacher. Depends on the issue, depends on what the charge was. Something minor that happened when they were, 20 years old and now they're 50 and trying to reinvent themselves. So, and when I say reinvent, I don't mean it insultingly. I mean it as trying to re-educate themselves to the employment that opportunities out there.
Just one follow-up on that. Thank you for the explanation. I get it. I understand it. It sounds to me, and maybe I'm just assuming here, but this will probably be an ongoing expense going forward in the years ahead.
More than likely. The position I have it as only $15.75 an hour. That's what our starting pay is. And we broke it down. It was hard to get the numbers correct because when we did this originally, it was how many years ago, and it was kind of spaced out. We did put in for increases possibility, but currently it would be a union position. We could always move it to, an exempt if we can't fill the position, because it's been very hard to fill positions. But currently we have my assistant is handling most of the expungements that come through. And, it's crazy. I think there was 140 last week cases, and each case is like tons of paperwork. So, because you have to make copies and you have to send it out to all the entities. So it could go on, yes, after this point, but right now we're kind of, evaluating it to see what is going to happen once the money would run out.
So that's kind of reassuring to me because at $15.75 an hour, you're looking at about 32,000 a year in salary
Right.
and then benefits.
No, it's
Yeah.
under 30.
Under 30, huh? Oh, okay.
Well, what is it? 3750, I think, 30,750.
yeah.
Yes.
So, it's not a large amount. What I like seeing where we're allocating 265,000, that would carry forward then for that specific use for possibly a number of years.
Correct. It could, but I know with ARPA funds, we have to report it, correct? So I'm not sure how that would work. We might not even use it all,
Mhm.
but it definitely would hold that position so that we could fill it.
Good. Well, thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments on this resolution for this project? Mr. Tepe?
Is this to fund one person?
Right now, yes.
Okay, well, the funds have to be used by the end of
2026.
2026.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking for, we're granting funds well in excess of what you're saying you're going to use.
No, not necessarily, because we do have, it's a union contract. So the salary could get raised even 10% annually. So, and it also, if the position doesn't get filled internally, then we have to go to outside sources to try and fill the position. And that might increase the salary. So we've kept it at the base, and with the anticipation that we might have to move in somebody into the position that's already been with us for several years, which would mean then they would get paid more than $15 an hour.
But again, at a cost of, let's say, 50,000 a year per person, how many people are you planning on hiring?
That was for one position. Did that include the the juvenile? No, okay. Because I know we were asking for a juvenile clerk also.
The amount just doesn't make sense for one position.
I would ask Mr.
In any
Peter.
case, I
Yeah.
think having an overage, a buffer isn't a bad
And you're
thing.
not, if we're not going to use it, we're not going to use it, but, and then it would go back to, right, it'd
Yeah,
go back
this-
to the
And then we
funds.
lose the money.
This is no, so this is one of the
Yeah,
projects.
and just get the money and use it. You have to have reasons. So
Yeah, so this is one of the projects that we will be seeing that will require a little closer monitoring on expenditures. Because as we get closer to the end of 2024, we have to know where our money is going to go for the next 2 years beyond that. So if in July of 2024, it's looking like the circuit clerk is not going to need anywhere near that money, we can make adjustments and money will come back into the ARP fund to be utilized for something else at that point. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't make sense to me at all.
Okay.
You're
Basically-
asking for twice the amount of money that is required to accomplish this. And to say, oh, because it might become a union position,
no, it is a union position,
then.
but
you know,
we're having exempt and union do it now.
Financially, it makes no sense to me. Maybe Mr. Leonard can help me out with that.
Mr. Leonard?
I don't know if I can help you out or not, Mr. Tepe, but I think in looking at this, and as Ms. Barrow said, maybe it'll run 50,000 a year. And I think you suggested that too. 23, 24, 25, and 26, that's 200,000. So if in fact it is 50,000 a year for the next 4 years, then we've got the majority of that
But you have to,
265,000.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
You have to include insurance in that. Insurance is like 20,000, 30,000. So, I mean, theoretically, it's like $9 an hour to somebody, but, the projections were made when we received the ARPA funds for the county. So we're already behind on the total amount. Do you understand? So it was kind of guesstimated for the, 5 years, but we're way into that already. So that's where the fluctuation may come, but I agree with Mr. Leonard. Even at 50,000, if we plan 50,000 a year, it would still be less. However you want to work this, it does not matter to me as long as I can get some funds to pay for this clerk.
So the amount can be adjusted
Yes, it could. I mean,
through an amendment.
yes.
Let's do that.
Mr. Sturgis, you had a question.
Teresa, if I could ask, in this expungement bucket category division, who is doing that now? Is that task being done? And you're asking for funds just to cover those expenses? Or is this something that's not being done? And by expending this, we're adding to what the
No.
offerings are now?
It's being done currently. That's why we have the information on how the previous years going forward, how many expungements we've actually had. It's being done currently by an exempt staff member who is also my assistant in HR. She has 3 jobs. And when we have a lot come in like we did last week, we try to fan it out to other clerks in the office. So there's like about 3 or 4 people actually doing this job in addition to their jobs. And it will not go away. It will only increase as years go on.
Mr. Leonard, did you?
Go
Oh,
on.
I thought,
There's a lot of cannabis expungements and there's a lot of expungements in Illinois statutes right now that will just increase this workload to, I could probably see 2 clerks needing it down the road once all of this with the Illinois Safety Act comes through. But there's several bills in there currently for automatic expungements on certain types of crimes. If they've completed court-ordered.
They've done what they're supposed to have done. You can come back and do it, and you don't, right now, you don't have the staff required to hit the load that you're getting hit with.
Correct.
or an increase, so.
Or an
for that
increase,
matter,
correct.
so. Mr. Tepe,
Yet, let me make it very clear. I'm totally in favor of giving you this person. My only concern is the money, okay? So I'm concerned that we might lose the money if it's not properly handled. So I'd like to see it amended so that it's more realistic.
well, you are on the committee, Mr. Tepe.
It can't be improperly handled. It would just be over. There's nothing, you can't okay, if you allot this amount for a clerk, if that amount was not used for that specific clerk, the monies would go back to your ARPA fund.
No,
They would not stay in my budget.
It would not go back to the ARPA fund. It would leave the county and go back to the federal government. That's
No,
my-
because we're going to reevaluate this.
If I may, it wouldn't, because through monitoring of these projects and the expenditures, we will know in advance of our deadlines if they're gonna need all of that money or not. And many months before that deadline, I would say about 6 months before, we will take any money out of projects that won't be expended in the proper amount of time so that we can reallocate those funds.
A lot of work.
We have to do it no matter what. Mr. Leonard, did you have a?
No, I was just
Okay.
going to say, possibly 1 year before the end of this, we should review it and see where we're at.
Yeah.
Because then we have 1 year to figure out how to spend that money without, as Mr. Tepe said, returning it to the federal government.
Yeah, yeah, which in the end of 2024 is that final deadline for allocating how you're going to spend the money. So yeah, so end of 23, beginning of 24, we'll already be monitoring the situation. Mr. Phillips.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Tepe, Erica Wagner and I have discussed this as related to this process as it relates to payroll. And we will be reviewing each of these per Erica at each year on the budget. And we have a governor in place with the payroll. So, of course it is payroll. We have a terminus date, but these will be reviewed during the budget process each year, according to the conversations we've had.
Understand. I just think it's an overreaching
forward.
burden, but let's go forward.
We'll never get out of here.
Everybody
Jeff.
ready? No amendments needed, required? Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Bates, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strothman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
and Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes?
Thank you.
Thank you. I need a motion and a second for the next resolution authorizing the conversion of the American Rescue Plan Administrative Coordinator from a part-time position to a full-time program coordinator position with funding from state and local fiscal recovery funds.
So
Leonard
moved,
moves.
Kenyon.
Kenyon moves, Leonard seconds. Any discussion, any questions or comments on this? This is again, just bringing the position Jenny Smith fills currently into a full-time position with some more coordinated duties for the program. Hearing and seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Bates, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strothman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
and Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes. Okay, the next two and final resolutions on this agenda, these are new requests that have come in addition to our department project requests. These two specifically are similar in nature to what we were trying to accomplish with the community support grant program. So as you've reviewed these, I hope you understand the similarity that these two requests have to that program we've already approved. So I will ask first for a resolution, motion and a second for the resolution authorizing the execution of a grant agreement with Tri-City Health Partnership with funding allocated from state and local fiscal recovery funds.
Gums will move.
Gums moves,
Kenyon will second.
Kenyon seconds. And then Kim Lemansky is the director of Tri-City Health Partnership, and she is here today to answer any questions you may have on this request.
Good morning. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on this?
Could we scroll down and see the dollar figure?
100,000.
Ms. Lemansky, let me just ask you, since you're at the podium, can you just give us a real brief description of the types of services that you offer and how this is going to help your organization?
Absolutely. And thank you for the opportunity. Tri-City Health Partnership has been a vital component of the healthcare industry for Central Kane County for over 20 years. We're located downtown St. Charles, and we provide free medical and dental care to low-income uninsured residents of Central Kane County. These are patients that do not have access to or can afford health insurance either with their employer or through the marketplace. The average patient that we serve is a family of 3 who live in St. Charles with an annual income of $23,000 a year. And so they, our bridge that we gap are those that make too much money to get Medicaid, but definitely not enough to live on, including paying for health insurance and paying for medications. All of that is provided by Tri-City Health Partnership at no cost.
And last year, Mr. Phillips and I had a tour of the facility, and it's just wonderful what you guys do and the services you provide. Mr. Kenyon?
Thank you.
Approximately how many people do you serve?
Last year, we had over 5,000 visits, And the year before that, we had 4,000. We're up 63% just in the last 5 years with COVID and emergency other areas that we've been supporting. We've now included food pantry. We provide emergency shelter for people, as well as some behavioral health information that we've been able to provide as well.
God bless you.
Thanks.
It's a real need.
Yeah, we're very blessed.
Any other questions or comments for Ms. Lemansky? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Bates, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Debbie, yes.
and Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes. And our final resolution today, if I can get a motion and a second for authorizing the allocation of state and local fiscal recovery funds and development of parameters for grants to eligible 26 USC 501c19 veteran service organizations in Kane County.
Kenyon would
Gums
move.
moves.
Everybody moves. I heard Surges and Kenyon. Sorry, Gums.
Kenyon's the best.
Little digital lag. Yeah, Kenyon.
Burgess seconds.
All right, you got it. Kenyon motions, Surges seconds. Again, when we put together a community support grant program, just as we were finishing it up and wanting to get going on it, the federal government changed the guidelines and allowed for 501c19 organizations, veteran service organizations, to apply for ARPA funds. So they just missed our timeline, our window before, but we wanted to make sure we did something, and it took some time to figure out the best way to do it. And this is kind of the only way to do it, I believe. So Mr. Zimmerman is here. And I believe we have some other veterans as well in the audience. Mr. Zimmerman, if you can come up and just describe very briefly how this program, we've envisioned it and how it will help.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today. This program will help reimburse the 501c19 organizations that have brick and mortar locations here in Kane County with the expenses they incurred, particularly rent, mortgage, or utilities that they incurred during COVID. They still had to keep their lights on. They still had to pay the gas bills, but they were not able in most circumstances to get the normal revenue they do through fundraisers because of congregate gatherings and whatnot. So this would help make them whole. I will note that much like the Treasury almost forgot the 501c19s in the ARPA final rule, the same thing happened during the CARES Act. They got missed in the interim rule. They got added in the final rule. And a lot of other grant organizations have the 501c3 requirement on there. The Kane County Riverboat Grant is one. The city of Aurora has one. I don't think they intentionally exclude the 501c19s, but this is another one of those equity things where by not getting added, they were unable to take advantage of some of those other grants. So this would help make them whole. I do have Brian Kelsey with the Batavia American Legion, or I'm sorry, the Batavia VFW, Mike Eckberg with the Aurora American Legion, and Jake Wyatt with the St. Charles VFW. They're here to also answer any questions or provide any comments on the types of expenses they incurred during COVID while also providing services to the veterans community.
Any question, Mr. Surges?
Jake, is this going out throughout the VFWs in Kane County?
Can you get on the mic a little harder?
Yeah, does this go from head to toe, north to south, or is it just for their specific?
Yes, it goes to all of the veterans posts in Kane County that have a physical location that they own or rent. There are some like in Hampshire and other locations where they either borrow space for free that they don't incur any expenses, or they share expenses with another veterans post where they will not receive those funds. But this, like the Batavia VFW, the American Legion, Aurora, the St. Charles Veterans Center, they all have physical space.
So West Dundee would be included in that?
Yes, they are. The VFW post 2298 there is included in this, and the American Legion is not, because they share that space and they don't incur any expenses.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Tepe?
Yeah, thank you. Since in the past, I've never been able to really give Jake a directive. I'd like to right now give Jake a directive and to make sure that you use all of this money, Jake. Thanks.
And to do that.
It's reimbursement based, and I think
They're gonna keep an eye on it.
we've lined it all up, and once we get the final approval and grant agreements, the money should be spent. The goal is to do it all in one check for each entity instead of multiple. So get your paperwork ready, guys. We're gonna need you to turn it in right away.
Gentlemen, this young man does you proud, so.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Bates, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surgeons,
Burgess, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
and Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes. Real quick, under old business, we did talk about investments last month. We have developed an initial investment schedule, but there's still some more information coming in that will tweak that slightly. And we are in communication with the treasurer's office, and we'll be working on that. And that's as we develop that investment schedule more thoroughly, that will be going more into the finance committee's purview, and we'll have reports that go to finance committee, also this committee, but it's really a county board issue. So just wanted to update you on that issue of the investments. We already had executive session. Now I need a motion for Mr. Kenyon to adjourn.
We had an exceptional day, I think.
It was a
Did
good
a lot
day.
of good.
Yes,
Well, you don't always do as much good.
yes.
Let's move to adjourn. We gotta get Cliff out to in the society.
So, Sturgis seconds, I take it. Sir, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for being here. We were efficient today.